the Mexican government issued this response saying, Mexico's migration policy is a sovereign one, through which it seeks to ensure legal, safe, and orderly migration with full respect for people's rights. Under no circumstance does the Mexican government promote irregular migration. And the Mexican ambassador to the United States, Gerónimo Gutiérrez, joins me now from Washington. Ambassador, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Christiana. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So let us take stock. What do you understand? What does the Mexican government understand by President Trump's statement just now that he will militarize the border with your country, send American troops there?
Well, thank you very much. This gives me the opportunity to address this issue, which is important and has certainly called attention. The first thing is that the Mexican government has formally asked for clarification of the president's statements, both through the State Department and the Homeland Security Department. I have personally already spoken to Secretary Nielsen at DHS. And the important thing is that both countries share the idea of having a secure border. We don't always agree in how to achieve that objective. And I do expect that as in the next few hours, we will get clarification on this issue. It's certainly not something that the Mexican government welcomes, but as soon as we have further clarification, we can expect to have a better idea of where we are.
So when you picked up the phone to talk to the Secretary of Homeland Security, did she have any idea that this was coming? Did you get any clarity from her?
Well, my understanding, as you mentioned before, the National Guard has been called before in different instances and in past years in a supportive role. I would assume that that's what we're looking at. The president will be meeting with Secretary Nielsen later today, and we will continue our dialogue with U.S. authorities today.
Mm-hmm. So what will Mexico's response be if you do not get the kind of clarification that you want? In other words, will Mexico respond by putting troops on its side of the border if, in fact, that's what's happening from the U.S. side?
Well, Mexico is certainly a sovereign nation, and we will act in our own best interest, as that's only natural. In fact, the U.S. and Mexico have a very strong cooperation on security matters, especially at the border. And we believe that we will find a common ground to secure the border, but in a way that that it serves both countries' interests. That's what certainly the type of cooperation that we have been engaging with in the past 12 or 14 months with the Trump administration, and we hope that that will continue.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, because the original sort of anger from President Trump, amongst many others in this ongoing crisis over the wall, over immigration, etc., is this human chain, this procession of Central Americans who are coming through Mexico, trying to reach the United States. You just heard in that sound that I played of President Trump saying that it's up to Mexico to stop them, or else we will, deal them a defeat on NAFTA. So what is Mexico doing about this?
Well, I'm glad that you earlier referenced what is the Mexican government policy on immigration. The Mexican government does not promote nor advocate for irregular immigration. It's certainly not in the interest of anybody, including Mexico. What we seek is a migration that is legal, safe, orderly, and that respects the basic rights of people. And that's what we're trying to achieve. In the specific case of the caravan, which, as you mentioned, has taken place before in previous years, what we're looking at is an event that really calls the attention into the rights of migrants in Mexico. As it was announced yesterday by Mexico's government, Mexican migration authorities have been working with the people involved in the caravan. We have offered already humanitarian relief to them in Mexico, and we're also looking at the status of the individuals so we can proceed either with a repatriation process according to Mexican law, or offer that humanitarian relief that I just mentioned.
But does the humanitarian relief involve allowing them to continue to the U.S. border?
It does not. This caravan really calls our attention on something that it's important. Mexico faces a challenge, Central America faces a challenge, and the U.S. faces a challenge individually with respect of these type of developments. What we really, I think this calls our attention is the need to better communicate and coordinate and hopefully align our asylum policies. There has been a specific working group that has been formed by agreement of Mexico and the United States that it'll start working in the next few days, I hope in a couple of weeks at the most. And I think that will be helpful to manage this situation and any other one in the future.
So I wonder whether you were all surprised and maybe caught off guard a little bit, because you heard also President Trump threatening NAFTA and Mexico's, participation in NAFTA. It seems, though, that you'd all been experiencing negotiations that we heard, at least from the Mexico side, seem to be going quite well. What is the status of the NAFTA discussions underway right now? And were you caught off guard by President Trump threatening that NAFTA deal today?
Well, the administration's position on the North American Free Trade Agreement have been public for quite some time now. We are engaging in negotiations. The 8th round will soon take place. We do believe that NAFTA has been, on balance, a very successful agreement for the three countries. We do recognize that it's a 25-year-old agreement that can certainly be improved, updated, and modernized. That is where the negotiating teams are focused on. It is in the interest of the three NAFTA partners to help employment conditions throughout the region. We share that view with the administration and our Canadian friends. That is what we're concentrated on. NAFTA, it's not so much only about what we trade among ourselves, but it's really about how do we produce together as a region to export to other places in the world. And it can be improved. Yes, that's what we're doing. But on balance, it has been successful. And the relationship between Mexico and the United States is a very comprehensive one. Certainly, it's a very dynamic, and it needs to be looked comprehensively. But I think that the NAFTA negotiation is on track. And at the same time, our security affairs are evolving on a daily basis and on separate tracks.
Okay, so the nugget was you believe that the NAFTA is on track. So let me ask you then regarding security. President Trump appears to think that this caravan of people, as he calls it, is a threat, potentially a national security threat. Do you, since they're coming through Mexico, view these people as threats? Are they dangerous?
No, they're not dangerous. I think it's very important to separate very clearly what we do have as shared challenges on transnational organized crime and other security challenges from what is a humanitarian situation. I think it's important to keep those separately. Every country faces security challenges. And in fact, the ones that we do have and are being addressed jointly through cooperation between U.S. and Mexican agencies. I don't see why we could not continue to improve our cooperation.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to ask you finally, because we're just slightly running out of time, I wanted to ask you about, the president seems to be being egged on, as I said, by the conservative media, his very conservative followers and supporters about this wall. How does that sit with you as a Mexican citizen, as a Mexican nationalist, and obviously a government official, and the whole idea that they still say Mexico is going to pay for it one way or the other?
Let me be very clear. Number one, we do believe in the importance of having secure borders. We will not always see exactly the same way how to achieve that objective with the United States. A relation like the one between Mexico and the United States needs to have spaces in order to agree to disagree. The issue of the wall is certainly one of them. And as my government has clearly expressed already, Mexico by no means would be paying for a wall.